Broadcasting from Detroit's Cass Corridor, it's the Metro on WDET. I'm Robyn, Vincent.
And I'm Tia Graham. Today on the show, a symbol of Detroit's industrial rise and decline may be headed for a rebirth. We'll break down a redevelopment proposal at the Packard plant.
Plus, the future of I-375. After years of controversy, MDOT is back with a revised plan. We'll ask what went wrong before and whether this new vision delivers something better for Detroit.
Then, we'll step into Detroit's underground past for an exhibit fusing punk, performance, film, and visual art into something unmistakably Detroit.
And later, a new RoboCop statue lands in Eastern Market. Why a gritty sci-fi hero from the 1980s still resonates here.
These conversations about memory, movement, and reinvention start now on the Metro.
We begin with the reconstruction of I-375. It's a project meant to do two things at once: rebuild aging infrastructure and repair the harm caused by a highway that decades ago tore through Black neighborhoods and business districts in downtown Detroit. But as recent plans evolved, the cost of the I-375 construction project was ballooning to $520 million. Criticism was mounting among nearby business owners who feared losing money, and Detroiters who wanted to ensure the project would deliver reparative outcomes. So in August, MDOT paused the project. Then last month, it revived it once again, this time creating a slightly different plan. To discuss the revived project now, we have Jason Garza here. He's the Michigan Department of Transportation Deputy Region Engineer. Jason, welcome to the Metro.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So the new I-375 project will create a surface street-level boulevard from Jefferson to Gratiot. It would also construct a separate storm sewer south of Jefferson to reduce the burden on the city's wastewater treatment system. So, Jason, how is that different from the initial plan?
So the initial plan was, like you mentioned, $520 million. That extended all the way up north of Gratiot. That included the I-75, 375 interchange, the street connections, and networking around the Eastern Market. So that project was basically 5 separate work packages, and each of those work packages were very sizable. I mean, they could be independent projects of their own elsewhere in the state. So in the grand scheme of things, it was going to be extremely impactful to downtown businesses, residents trying to get to the medical center, grocery shopping, schools, let alone special events, right? So we took a step back during this pause and kind of went through all of the comments that we received, basically assessing what direction this project could go. Because keep in mind, we do continue to have aging infrastructure on this project. So when we did that step back, we said, well, maybe there's a different path forward in order to maybe accomplish similar goals. And so that's where we landed on the phasing plan. So a lot of states do phasing for their larger projects. This is not an overly unique situation with phasing, but this project is unique. Like you mentioned about reconnecting communities, but this is also very much an infrastructure project. So during this assessment, we've taken a step back and looked at 3 things. 1, where the public controversy and consternation is. 2, the costs, right? Like you mentioned, ballooning to $520 million, which is just massive. And then what we build is going to be out there for 40, 60 years, wanting to make sure that we get this as right as we possibly can, knowing this project can't be everything for everyone everywhere. So it's a very delicate balance.
Yeah, it sounds like you had to take a lot of different factors into consideration. And what you're saying about the previous plan, it sounds like it had become too unwieldy. There were too many moving parts. There were too many question marks and too many different things to be thinking about project-wise. So this is more of a distillation.
Yeah, it's really kind of taking a step back and let's just do south of Gratiot, right, and get that constructed. And then we can use how human nature reacts to that new infrastructure. Driving habits might change a little bit, that sort of thing, and using real data to then move forward with some kind of an interchange plan at a much later date, to be honest. I've been saying the interchange, the clock is still ticking. Those bridges continue to deteriorate, but as far as full-blown construction there, it's not so much the 5-year window, but probably more like the 10-year window based on those deterioration rates.
I'm wondering, Jason, too, for you as an engineer with MDOT, how often is it that you're taking this kind of public input really deeply and using that to help guide a project? It sounds like that was pivotal to the changes, the revisions, where you're at right now with the I-375 reconstruction.
It's extremely important because the city of Detroit has a lot of commerce in the downtown area. And with a project with the history that this has and what was involved in the original inception back in Eisenhower days of quote unquote urban renewal, there's a lot of tension with this kind of a project. And so more than just a typical freeway project, right? This has a lot more emotion behind it, rightly so. Yeah. And so there's a lot of conversations that we have about this, about, when this gets rebuilt, however it ends up shaking out, that it can't bring back the Hastings Street and the damage that was done. All we can do as a department is try to point in a more positive direction.
What specifically would you say was going wrong with the original I-375 reconstruction plan? I mean, business leaders were upset. Legacy Detroiters were upset. The cost of the project, as we have both noted here, got out of control. So what did the project's leaders get wrong?
Well, I wouldn't say anything went wrong. I think a big part of it was the project, including the interchange and Eastern Market, all of that. One of the analogies that was given to me that made a lot of sense, that resonated with me, hearing feedback from the community, was this is like open heart surgery on the city of Detroit, right? This is a main artery into the downtown, and we're kind of coming at this with this big several years construction. Construction's never convenient, right? No matter how many bells and whistles and things that we put out there, it's going to be an inconvenience. However, you want there to be a benefit coming out the end. And that was something that a lot of people had a hard time seeing, was is this truly going to be worth the pain? With the size of project, the magnitude, some of the time constraints we had, it was difficult to work out specifically what that maintaining traffic would look like during construction, because it's a process with what we refer to as a progressive design build. So versus designing the project, bidding it, and then building it, this process allows us to take more community comments during design.
So it sounds like this open heart surgery is acknowledging the patient from a more holistic perspective.
Yeah.
The patient being the city of Detroit. Right.
I wouldn't say this is we're going to do exercise instead of heart surgery. This is still big construction with staying south of Gratiot with this project, but I think it's much more manageable from a business owner standpoint of facing 2 years of construction versus we were basically around 5 years of construction with the overall large project, in addition to a major interstate interchange. So.
Sure. This is the Metro on WDET. I'm Robyn Vincent. My guest is Jason Garza. He's the Michigan Department of Transportation Deputy Region Engineer. We're discussing the revival of the redevelopment of I-375. The Michigan Department of Transportation, Jason, is in charge of our infrastructure and helping move traffic throughout the state. It's not in charge of healing social harms. Do you think this was ill-conceived, that MDOT was put in charge of doing something that it's not supposed to do, that really is far outside of its wheelhouse?
Well, I will say that this project is definitely reliant on our local champions. And so during the last few months, one of the things that we've done during this pause is kind of take that step back, but also strengthen the relationships that we have with both Downtown Detroit Partnership, DDP, and the Kresge Foundation. So you're not wrong. We are very good at a lot of things. We're good at construction and road, bridge maintenance, snow plowing, etc. When it comes to things like community enhancements, equitable development, small business incubation, minority-owned business incubation, those are things that are not something we specialize in, right? So it makes sense that we need local partnership in order to help strengthen that portion of our project. Mm-hmm. And that's where Kresge, specifically with DDP, are going to be instrumental in that effort.
So that means that the folks at the Kresge Foundation are leading the healing and the reparative aspects of the project.
So we still are basically along for the ride, as I've been saying, during this whole process. But they are helping us with kind of coming up with options for how we satisfy that portion of our project when it comes to community enhancements. And the city of Detroit is leading the effort with the land use and zoning. So we all kind of come together to accomplish all of this. It's teamwork on a really large, impactful level.
Jason, what's the process like moving forward on this project? I mean, there will be meetings about it. What are they supposed to be accomplishing?
So we have a local advisory committee that meets, is starting to meet monthly. We just had our first meeting after the pause last week. And so each month we will be diving into different aspects of the community enhancements plan, the aesthetics design guidelines, which is fancy title for kind of what we want the vibe of that corridor to look like. Mm-hmm. When I say we, I mean as a community, not MDOT. And then also the land use and zoning. So all of that is getting handled during those, what we refer to as LAC meetings. We plan to have another greater community meeting in March to give an update on where we are at. One thing I wanted to add is the phasing plan still has to go through an approval process with federal highways. So we do need their blessing in order to proceed with that. So we're working through some of the details of what they want to see in order to approve that.
I'm glad you mentioned federal highways because that has me thinking about infrastructure projects throughout the country and how they've been affected by federal dollars. I mean, you still need federal money to create the boulevard between Jefferson and Gratiot. What's the likelihood that you get that money while the Trump administration is still in power?
So this project has what's referred to as an infra grant. So it's about a $104 million grant, and it can be used for up to 60% of the project costs. With the phased plan going from $520 million down to about $120 million with this phased approach, 60% of that is going to put us around the $72 million mark. So either way, that federal grant is going to be decreasing. But during this time, we are, because we've changed the project, we have to have a reassessment done of the grant. So that does go to Washington. That does get looked at. They look at the scope, the impact of the schedule, the cost, and that sort of thing. So I don't have a crystal ball, but okay. I'm told to be optimistic. So.
You're told to be optimistic. I wonder if you're having to change some of the language in terms of how you're describing this project when it comes to what you send over to federal folks, because talking about repairing racial harm, for example, sounds like that might not be very appetizing to people who are in charge of the federal coffers right now for infrastructure.
Yeah, one thing to keep in mind, however it's branded or referred to, 375 project, et cetera, in the end, we are obligated to fulfill our environmental review document. So we refer to this as the green sheet, the quote unquote the green sheet, right? And in the green sheet, it's very prescriptive of what we do. And all those community enhancements, the aesthetic design guidelines, those are all in that document. So regardless of how this were to move forward with this grant, we have federal money, do we not? We have to do the things that are outlined in that green sheet. So with the community enhancements and all of those types of things, that's always been included in this project, regardless of how it gets referred to.
Jason Garza is the Michigan Department of Transportation Deputy Region Engineer. Jason, thank you so much for joining me on the Metro.
Thank you for having me.
It's the Metro on WDET. Up next, Detroit's Packard plant will be undergoing renovations. We'll hear what will happen at this historic site next.